What's going on, our loyal Scouts community? I know you guys are growing each day. I think we're getting over 75 views per Scouts episode, which is exciting. And people are leaving great comments. One person said, this kind of content deserves more likes and views. So, as you guys know, all of our growth is word of mouth. We don't do any marketing, anything like that. It's just word of mouth. We just try to put out good content that we think is valuable to you guys. And it's been cool that people are resonating with our Scouts episodes because, truthfully, Conrad and I are just two guys who love basketball. We love the NBA. Let me ask you something. I saw a thread going around Twitter. People said this is the worst NBA playoffs they've seen in a long time. Do you agree with that?
No.
Oh, no. The hoodie Conrad's coming out. Watch out.
Maybe my ears are kind of cold. It's freezing down here, but I'll keep it off for right now. But no, I disagree. This is still very exciting. We don't know who's going to win a championship, although we are pretty confident that it would be the Brooklyn Nets, most likely, the way things are looking right now. But we can get into that a little bit later. But I disagree. 100% disagree. You can make a case that last year was the worst. Although I would also disagree with that statement. I thought that the amount of guys that were going off because of the conditions they were playing in. I thought that made it more exciting, seeing guys drop 50 points a game or 40 points this game. Just stuff like that is very exciting, like to see it on a regular basis, especially because we know that's not going to last forever. However, you could make the case that, the conditions made it hard for us to really know who was going to win. And that kind of made things a little bit less exciting to watch as fans because it's like, okay, my team would normally be doing well, but all of a sudden now they're not or whatever it is. But the reason I say no specifically is because of the Warriors dynasty. It's nice to see teams winning it all, but by year 4, year 5, it's like, okay, we've seen enough of you. Can we get some new teams in here? Because every year it was just, who's winning the championship? Oh, the Golden State Warriors are still existing? Okay, then it's going to be them. Right? And that's just not that exciting after a while. We got lucky in a sense as NBA fans, and I don't want to use that word because it's a terrible situation, but we got lucky in a sense as NBA fans that Klay Thompson and KD got injured, and that they didn't win 4 out of the 5 NBA finals that they were in the past 5 years. You know what I mean? So
you're saying if Durant and Thompson didn't get injured last NBA playoffs, the one before the bubble, that the Warriors might have stayed together and they just might have had like a 5-6 year dynasty?
Not at all, honestly. But, because KD would have still left. He wanted to be on his own team, even though he still has a super team there, but he wanted to be on his own team. But Klay would be healthy, and Steph Curry would still be in his prime. And during that trade, they would still have the Minnesota Timberwolves pick, which is going to be a very, very high pick this year or next year. Like, they would still be in a very good situation, and while they wouldn't have been a dynasty, they would have still been a very, very, very hard team to beat for the next 5 years. Like, that's just my personal opinion. And I'm not saying that would have made every playoffs less exciting. That would be, what's the best way to put it? It would be like every playoff series after that would be better than that year specifically, Raptors versus Warriors, because that was the 4th year that the Warriors have won a title in 5 years and stuff like that. But then after that, they would kind of be on a little bit of a decline, if that makes any sense. I hope it did, but I don't know.
What I really miss about the Warriors, the way they play, is their ball movement. So, I was watching, if we start yesterday, the Jazz-Clippers game. That's a series I didn't expect. And actually, Kawhi's playing pretty poorly, and we're about to get into that. Pretty poorly by his standards. And Donovan Mitchell's just going off. But they play a lot of iso ball, both teams.
Yeah.
Where I miss the ball movement of the Warriors. But Conrad, you've had a crazy week. This guy, you don't even understand. This guy has 4 jobs. He's starting a new job. His dad pulls him and makes him paint houses and build houses. This guy's all over the map, and he finished school like 1 week ago. So this is not this is a unique kid here.
Thank you.
What series do you want to start with? You want to start with the Jazz Clippers? You want to start Bucks?
Let's start with Jazz. You've already got the conversation going, and there's certainly a good amount of stuff to say. You mentioned Donovan Mitchell's going off in this playoff series. That's something I want to talk about. He's been in the playoffs, I think, every year since he was drafted. I believe that's how it goes. He's never missed a playoffs whatsoever. And You good? My dog just yawned for some reason. But anyway, he's had a couple bad series here or there, but he's consistently been a playoff performer. And the past 2 seasons, he has taken it to new levels, and that is something that is a conversation that has to be discussed a lot more often. Is he like the next quote unquote Damian Lillard, a guy that steps up his play during the playoffs and just absolutely blows all of our minds year after year after year because we're constantly going to be underrating this man? I mean, it's in a sense the same narrative around him, right? Underrated, he's underrated, he's underrated during the regular seasons for many years of his career. Then he goes off during the playoffs, and people are like, "Oh, this kid's a star," and then it repeats the next season, right? Stuff like that. It's just it's really awesome to see because so many people are 50-50 on Donovan Mitchell, and I still am personally. I'm not sure if I would put this guy in, say, hey, take control of my franchise, lead us to the promised land. I trust you to do that. But he's consistently performed year after year in the playoffs, and I don't think enough people really give him recognition for that.
The Jazz have been the best team in the league all year.
Oh yeah,
they're the number one seed, best record. And here I've been talking like they're vulnerable, but they're spanking. They're smashing the Clippers. I know the games are a little closer in the score than it seems, but I feel like something is wrong with this Clippers team. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's the players, if it's the way the roster is built. To me, it makes no sense. If I'm looking at the box score, to me, it makes no sense that Reggie Jackson has more shots than Paul George and Kawhi Leonard.
Yep.
I know I beat up on Reggie Jackson, but I can't understand this team. What is wrong with them?
They're just easily one of the most dysfunctional teams in the entire NBA. And something that I want to say is like some of Ty Lue's decisions that he makes. While he does make some good ones, like he played. He's done better with the Zubac situation, right? He's officially coming off the bench now. Boogie Cousins or Ibaka has been getting more minutes over him. That's a good situation. But once again, Terrence Mann and Rajon Rondo aren't getting the minutes that they deserve. Reggie Jackson is out here chucking up shots. Like, it's not a good situation. That is by far their biggest issue right now that they can fix. But the other one that I noticed, especially in Game 1, is just exhaustion. They're coming out of a Game 7. They look tired, right? They just look very, very tired. And while, yes, it's part of the game, you kind of got to deal with it. I mean, it's affecting them. So I don't know for sure what they should do about that. Do they try to give Kawhi and PG less minutes, or what it is? But I don't know. It's a rough situation for them for sure. But I do think that their biggest issue that they can fix is coaching. Ty Lue just is not a championship caliber coach right now, in my opinion. At least with this team. Maybe on a different team in a different situation, he could be, but the way that this team is constructed, which really the only system that they have is just give Kawhi and PG the ball and let them work in isolation and then hope for the best. It's just not working. It's just not working. They need more of a system, and they need better coaching, better rotations.
I think you're spot on. I think it has to come down to the coach because they have the players. They're in a position to win. You guys know I'm a Terrence Mann fan, but I don't understand how after last series, after what he saw, the energy he brought off the bench, how you give him 1 minute in yesterday's game and you give Patrick Beverley 20 minutes. It just makes no sense to me. Patrick Beverley went 0 for 5. 0 for 5 from the field, 0 for 2 from the three-point line.
And then,
I don't get it.
And then look at his defense too. If you actually sat and watched that game, it was pretty rough for him. I've always thought he was a bit of an overrated defender, right? He's slightly above average. But people talk about him like an elite point guard, an elite defending point guard, and he is not that. He is sporadic on the court. He is a pest for sure, which is something I respect as much as I hate. As much as I hate it, he plays the villain role on teams where he's just annoying as crap, talks lots of crap. And no one likes him, right? But he's willing to accept that role, and that's something I can give him respect for. But as far as individual defense goes, he's not very good. He's very sporadic, very all over the place. Is way too jumpy, commits to fakes way too often. He has moments where he locks someone up, but he doesn't do it consistently, and he's overrated in that aspect. And especially on a team with guys like Kawhi, Paul George, Serge Ibaka, you have some pretty good defensive pieces. And if things aren't clicking with him on either, whoa, my power just went out.
Well, not all your power, just the lights in your basement. You must have a motion sensor because your internet's still working.
Well, no, I'm running. I think I'm running on data right now because my Wi-Fi would suck. You know what? I'll do this in the dark. Here we go. Playoffs in the dark. Because actually, no, I can't. I'll go upstairs. Hang on. I got this. I don't even know.
This is cool. Luca Nation, you're getting a really unique experience with this video. Drop us a comment. What do you think happened? I think his dog wanted attention, and it's like the yawn didn't work, so I'm just gonna go shut off all the power. That's what I think.
But he has been a pest the entire time that I was down. Oh no, the power's out. Yeah, the power's out.
Wow. Power's out.
Everything. I don't know how, but hang on, let's see if this lamp works.
Obviously, the lamp's not gonna work.
Nope, power is out, which sucks for me because I know I'm in these episodes. So I was trying to make this relatively brief. All right. What was the last thing that I was talking about? Do you know?
I think we could label this Clippers team dysfunctional. They have the talent. They don't have the leadership. They don't have the leadership on the court. They don't have the leadership off the court. I don't see them. I know they came back to a 2-0 versus the Mavs. I don't see that happening again versus this Utah Jazz team, which is much more veteran, much more savvy defensively. And Donovan Mitchell, he looks like he's on a mission. He came out yesterday and he scored 10 of the first 12 points. I think he scored like 15 points in that first quarter. He's attacking. And this is all with Mike Conley on the bench. So,
and Conley's been struggling. As far as like his injury goes. I know he's got some issues with his hamstring right now. He's been struggling a bit, not going to lie. And, this team is still making it work. I think both teams have issues, which is one of the reasons why I can agree with you that the Clippers won't come back from this one. But I think that they've still got a shot. So many people were talking about, oh, my gosh, the Clippers are down 2-0 going to Dallas. They're screwed. Well, now they're down 2-0 going back to L.A. People aren't really talking about that. If they can fix their coaching, which that was one of the reasons why I think that they finally beat the Mavericks, which they decided, hey, we're going to just let Luka do whatever he wants and focus on not letting anyone else score. And then we're finally going to give Terrence Mann and Rajon Rondo more minutes and finally stop giving Zubac more minutes. If they can do that same thing here, going back to L.A., I think they could win the next two games and have a lot of momentum on their side, especially if Mike Conley is injured. Now, if they're tired, it's going to be difficult, but I still think that they can accomplish it. I'm not going to count this Clippers team out yet, but I am a bit. I'm not going to lie when I say I'm getting a bit exhausted of trying to make excuses for this team and say they've got a shot still, like they can do this. But that's all I got to say.
I've got to give credit to my co-host. So the Suns-Nuggets series was the one I was most perplexed about. I didn't know which way it would go. But, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You said it was going to be an easy series for the Suns, and I think you said 5 games?
I said 5 games, but I also wouldn't be shocked if it was – if I said 5 – I'll give them 5 games because Jokic is Jokic, but I would not be shocked if it was a sweep. And
wow. The score is 2-0 in the series, but if you guys watch those games, I don't think the Nuggets had a shot in either game.
They had a shot in game 1 until Chris Paul took over. Chris Paul then started going off, and then just the lead got too big, and they didn't have a shot at that point.
I'm excited for Chris Paul because I don't know if this is true or not, but this is my observation. This is the easiest road in the postseason that he's had in a little while. He's played versus a JV-looking, in terms of effort, Lakers team. And then a Nuggets team, which as good as they are, they're dealing with a lot of injuries. So this is nice to see Chris Paul 2 games away from the Western Conference Finals and with a little bit of time to rest. I think if they're able to sweep them, that's a big deal for them. So
100%.
Is there anything you want to talk about the Suns Nuggets series? It's pretty clear cut. Yeah. What are you seeing from watching those games?
There's a couple of things. I mean, I just want to add something onto that Chris Paul, not take, but just something like the stuff that you mentioned. On top of this being one of the easier paths to a Western Conference Finals or Finals appearance from this team, I also think that besides I believe it was 2018 Rockets or 2017 Rockets, whichever one it was, this is the best team that he's ever had around him.
Yep.
Look, Lob City was great. It was exciting basketball. It was fun to watch, but they were never actual contenders, as good as their regular season record was. We all knew that. The Thunder, great team. He did a lot for them, but once again, not good enough to be a legitimate contender. Maybe they could have gotten out of that first round. They took it to 7 games. It was nice to see. And I mean, those Rockets teams also struggled a lot as well. And when he was in New Orleans, they were never really good enough. As good as he was, they were just never good enough to win a title. He didn't have a good enough supporting cast around him. This time, he's got the supporting cast. He's still playing fantastic basketball. He's got great leadership. This is the year. This is the best chance he's gotten at a title as far as the supporting cast goes. And I agree as well that this has been one of the easier paths for him to take individually, right? Or that he could have taken. Now, as far as, the other guys on this team, credit to DeAndre Ayton. I really want to give a lot of credit to DeAndre Ayton because I haven't been low on him necessarily. I haven't been talking crap, but I've looked at him and I've said he's disappointing me. He's disappointing me a bit. I was expecting more, but during the playoffs, he's really stepped it up. He's been a lot more aggressive on both sides of the ball, and like I said, I want to say in Scouts episode 6 or something like that, I said in order for this team to be successful, he's got to be more aggressive at all times and consistently step it up, and he's done that. He's played very well against Jokic, and look, if you look at the box score, it's not like Jokic is scoring 10 points a night. That's not happening. But he's limiting the amount of fouls that Jokic has been able to force him into. He's playing good defense and slowing down the game a lot. He's making it harder for Jokic to find an open shot, which then forces him to either try to still create his own shot, burning more time on the clock, or pass it off to someone else, meaning he can't get an open shot, which is something that they need to do as a team in order to be successful. And besides DeAndre Ayton, they have no real big man depth, so you can't really give a ton of credit to anyone else. I think DeAndre Ayton deserves a lot of credit in this series. And a couple of other guys I'll mention as well. Mikal Bridges, fantastic, phenomenal defense, consistently bringing it on that end of the court, and I love to see that because, I'm a defensive guy. I love my defense.
You love good defense?
I love defense. Defense is my favorite thing in the NBA. Then playmaking, like really good playmaking, flashy dunks, and then scoring's whatever. Like, who cares about scoring? Plenty of people are good scorers, but not enough good defenders and not enough good playmakers in the league. So, we gotta give those guys a lot of credit. So I love that.
What about a guy named Jack Crowder?
Jay Crowder. He's
Jay
a good
Crowder. But everywhere he goes. Remember the Celtics team? He was a winner there. Yep. He goes to the Heat. He's a winner there. He goes to the Suns. He's a winner there. Fun stat I looked up: career win percentage. Okay, so LeBron is 66% career win percentage, which is incredible. Kobe 62. Steph Curry 65%. Jack Crowder. How do you say Jay Crowder?
Jay Crowder, yeah.
Jay Crowder 60% win percentage in his career.
He's an excellent role player. Excellent role piece. I like to think of him the same way that I think of Jeff Green, but less so because Jeff Green takes $1 million deals and plays consistent basketball, whereas Jay Crowder, especially like at his age, he's getting more money than Jeff Green is, but in a sense, they still do the same thing. For the amount of money that they earn, they do a lot. Very good defense on the perimeter. This year, he stepped it up, and last year, actually, he stepped it up a lot as far as three-point shooting goes, and I'm very glad to see these been able to bring that like shooting, not percentage, but to bring back that consistency from three again this year. There's a fantastic piece off the bench, and I love that. I love that this team got him. He plays some great defense for them. He's also a pretty solid leader, and he's what? How do I want to say this? He's one of the dogs, right? If someone beats up on Devin Booker, if someone, starts talking smack to Mikal Bridges or Cam Johnson or something like that, he's the guy that'll step in there, and he's the guy that'll pick a fight, basically, if he really needs to.
He's tough.
He's the one that'll be there for the guys. Yeah, exactly. He's like the security guard for the team. There's a couple of those guys that usually every team has, and he plays that role for this team, and I love that as well. Who's that guy for the Nets? I'm trying to think of everybody on their roster. That's a tough one. Honestly, I think it can be a superstar at times because honestly, as sad as this is to say, like last year it was Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic will stand his ground. I'd probably say on the court, KD. KD. Off the court, people talk about, oh, he whines, he complains, KD's a baby, but on the court, he's not going to, step away if you start talking smack, or if you get mad at him, play some rough defense. He will go for your head. And so, I'll give him some credit there. I would say KD. I feel like I'm missing someone on this team, because I'm picturing someone in a Nets jersey, and I'm like, that's their guy. But I don't have their depth chart in front of me, so I'm kind of forgetting.
Joe Harris?
No. Joe Harris is all right, but he's not like the security guard for the team.
What do you make of Bruce Brown? Just
I love Bruce Brown.
Taking a ton of bad shots in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, he's not good, or he's not great. He stepped it up this year. Like, he's improved. He's made progress this year. But he's a nice piece off the bench. I thought he could be like the point guard before the James Harden trade with Spencer Dinwiddie out. I was like, I think this guy could be their point guard for the year, and I think they could still win a championship. I think that's possible. He can do a little bit of playmaking and play some fantastic defense. And with guys like KD, Kyrie, Joe Harris, and a couple of solid bench pieces, that's all you really need from a point guard, right? So I like him. He's a nice role player, but there's not much else to say. Something I do want to mention about this Nets team, though, before we move on, is actually, let's just move on to the Nets-Bucks series in its entirety.
Let's do it.
Right now, look, it's 2-1. It's a 2-1 series, but I think that maybe my James Harden take was kind of dumb, because this Nets team is amazing. This Nets team is amazing. It was a bad game for Game 3 for both teams. The Bucks won by 5, 83-88, I believe. Just a terrible performance for both teams. I'm gonna guess that the Nets win just dominate the rest of the series. But the thing is, this is without James Harden against what we all think as NBA fans, I'm pretty sure, was the best matchup for this Nets team in the Eastern Conference by far. And they're
toughest?
As far as matchup, toughest, or this team has the best shot of beating the Brooklyn Nets. That was currently in the playoffs. We were all like, it's gonna be the Bucks. They have a shot, and they're dominating without Harden. So you bring him back this year, or sometime again in the playoffs, they can win a championship. He's under contract for one more year, and they can run it back with the same supporting cast. And then the worst part, not worst part, but the craziest part is they could also bring back Spencer Dinwiddie. His trade value has been lowered significantly because of his injury. If he wants to win a championship, he can stick with this team, because he's like, yeah, they're going to win a championship. I know that for a fact. And he has a player option, I believe, this year for about $12 million. He can accept that player option if he does not feel there's any better offer on the table, especially if he just wants a ring, if he wants to be part of a championship team. And if that happens, there's no doubt this team wins 65 games in the regular season and almost sweeps the entire playoffs, honestly. And I mean, maybe it's not that extreme, but if that does happen, I really wouldn't be shocked. So I'm going to call my shot now and say if that happens, Spencer Dinwiddie returns. I think that happens because, look, you're getting excellent playmaking off the bench. He gets buckets as well. He's a very efficient scorer when he needs to be. He's clutch as well. He's had he's had a few clutch moments in his career. And he plays very versatile defense as well. We saw it in the beginning of this year. He stepped it up a lot this year before his injury. He was guarding the 1 through 4 at times, and playing very good defense and very good hustle ball as well. And I love him for that. This team, if they bring him back, is going to be unbelievably good. And it's honestly, it's just crazy to think about. But that's all I have to say.
Is anyone under contract for next year? Are they going to lose anybody in the offseason, or is this team fully coming back?
The guys that have under contract for next season are Harden, KD, Kyrie, Claxton, I believe, is also under contract. I'm pretty confident Joe Harris is expiring. I think Jeff Green is expiring as well. I think that because of the way that these worked, I think that Blake Griffin is also going to be expiring just because of the whole situation with whatever it's
called. The buyout.
Yep. Yeah, the buyout offer. And then DeAndre Jordan, I think, is under contract. So I think that the guys I believe that they could lose are Blake, potentially Harris. I'm not completely sure about him. Jeff Green, and Bruce Brown, I want to say, has another year left on his contract after this season. But once again, I'm not completely sure. So they overall have a lot of their supporting cast, I think, coming back next season, which is crazy. It's insane.
Kyrie, Kevin Durant, Harden, Dinwiddie, Blake Griffin, Joe Harris. These are all guys that could put up 20 points a game.
Yep.
They might. There might be games next year where they put up 150 points.
There's
160 points.
I was about to say that's not even. Yeah, I was about to say that's not that crazy. I wouldn't be.
That's not that crazy. Scoring 150 points. I remember All-Star games used to score 160.
Yeah, I know, right? I wouldn't be shocked if this team had one game where they scored like 165, 168 points, like in the high 160s. But I'm not saying that's going to happen a lot. But like next season, if they bring everybody back or most of their guys back and Dinwiddie, I think that's possible against a team like the Wizards or the Pistons with zero defense. That team could just feast, especially if everyone's healthy, right? But let's talk about the Bucks, but you look like you got one more thing you wanted to mention.
That's what I want to talk about.
Okay.
At what point do they realize that Giannis isn't a primary ball handler?
I kind of disagree with that statement.
Go ahead. You're allowed to disagree with me.
Oh no, I know that, but like it's kind of. He has to be a primary ball handler in the right situation. It's very difficult to say. They brought in Holiday, which is smart. Because in a situation with Holiday, he can be a primary ball handler on, I think, a championship contending team. Because if he does get stopped in the half court, which was their biggest issue, which was their biggest obstacle to get over these past couple of years, now he can give it to Holiday, who can then reset the offense in the half court and run your offense for you. Because a lot of times they used to just give Giannis the ball in transition. He'd try to attack the basket. And then if he was stopped, he was screwed. But now he can just hand the ball over to Holiday and let Holiday reset the offense. They go and try to get a bucket with the remaining time left on the shot clock, right? My thing is Coach Bud is proving me right. Once again, this guy cannot be a championship contending coach with his awful rotations, with the awful way that he handles players' minutes, and the fact that he never switches up his game plan. And on top of that, I've always said this. I love Chris Middleton, but he is never going to be and has never been a number 2 on a championship contending team. He does not score enough for you in volume to do that. Be a number 2 scoring option. Sorry, I had to specify that more. He cannot be a number 2 scoring option on a championship contending team. Number 3 is possible. Number 2 is not. He does not score enough for you in volume to be a number 2. And on top of that, he's not consistent enough to be a championship contending number 2. He's just not. I love him. I love his play style. And I think he's very underrated with the efficient scoring that he brings. But he cannot be a number 2 option on a championship contending team. And this team still has changes to make for a player like Giannis. Because he is a player that definitely – he's not a guy like KD or a guy like LeBron or a guy like Kawhi or a guy like Steph that can fit basically on any team in the NBA. In order for him to be dominant, he does need the right – like the perfect pieces around him. And they have not found that recipe yet. So – That's what I was getting confused about earlier when I say I kind of disagree with that. If you were to throw him in any situation and say be the primary ball handler, like I would disagree with that, or I would agree with that statement. He can't. But in the right situation, like he can be for sure, and there's no doubt in my mind about that. The Bucks just have not been able to find that recipe just yet. And at this point,
is Drew not the number 2? I thought they brought Drew Holiday in to be the number 2 and Chris Middleton's
not
number 3.
Not the number 2 scoring option, in my opinion, but like a number 2, like usage percentage wise, a number 2 option. A guy that is their second ball handler, but not their second scoring option.
This is gonna sound polarizing, but I actually think Giannis is the 3rd scoring option on this team. And Drew and Chris Middleton are 1 and 2. And I'll explain why. Giannis gets the most points. He gets the most points. He scores the most. But it's not because he takes good shots or he has a good offensive game. I would argue Giannis has an average offensive game at best. His free throw shooting is horrendous. Mm-hmm. He shoots 8 3-pointers a game, Sam. 8 3-pointers a game. He was 3 for 30. 3 for 30. It's madness that they keep letting him shoot. And then now he added this new move. It's when he's dribbling around the paint and he has like a fadeaway 16-footer. I think take away Giannis's dunks and layups and offensive rebounds for points. Those are great. But Giannis, to me, isn't a primary scorer. He doesn't have the tools in his tool belt to be a primary scorer
I think
on a championship team.
I think that depends on what your definition of a scoring option, like a first scoring option, is. If that means versatility on the offensive end and can get you a bucket in more situations than another, then yes, by that standard, which you certainly make it sound like he is your number one scoring option. Personally, to me, a number one scoring option on the team is the guy that they give the ball to and say you go score the most points. Does that mean he's the best scoring option? No. But does it mean he's their number one? Yes. Like that.
Yeah, but he's the number one because Coach Bud doesn't know what he's doing. But
yeah, I mean, he's
you absolutely.
Team, but he may not be the best option for them to go. Go ahead.
Here's why you need versatility on the offensive end. So sure, like when you're playing the Detroit Pistons, Giannis could go and get you 40 when he's matching up against a second or third tier defender. But when Blake Griffin, who's at the tail end of his career, can match up with Giannis off the dribble, that shows how limited Giannis is offensively. It just does. Giannis's offensive weaknesses are exposed because he has one move going downhill and Euro stepping. But if you know that move and you give yourself a cushion, you know he can't shoot. You know he can't get in the post. He has no shot. He has no fadeaway. He's very limited offensively. And I think when you get into the later part of the season where teams are scouting, teams are really focused in on not letting the number one option beat you, I think you're seeing how exposed Giannis is on the offensive end.
Yeah. Something I want to mention is he's kind of almost, in a sense, killing his own chances at a championship because of stuff that he's doing. You mentioned he's taking 8 threes a game, which made me think of this just now. Giannis's strive to become the best player he possibly can be is ruining his play on the court. And here's why. Like you mentioned, he's taking 8 threes a game, and I think part of the reason he's doing that is because he knows he's a bad three-point shooter and wants to improve upon that. But the time to improve, the time to take those three-point shots is not in the playoffs when you know you're a bad three-point shooter and your team is in win-now mode. If the team was like an 8 seed and you know no real shot at a championship, I would say go for it. But this guy's approaching his prime. This team is trying to contend for a championship right now. You gotta. I say he has to just play to his strengths and double down there. But like you kind of mentioned, he's not really doing that. He's trying to do stuff that he's not very good at because he wants to become the best player possible. And in order to win a championship, that's not what he needs to be doing right now, in my opinion. Which is one of the many reasons why the Bucks are probably not going to win a championship for a while. And I think now with his new Supermax kicking in, especially with the way that this team is currently constructed, they're not going to win a championship in a long time, for a while. I don't think
Giannis is a modern age Shaq. That's what Giannis is. He's a modern age Shaq, and he needs Dwayne Wade or a Kobe. It's that simple.
Yeah, I agree.
Now my favorite series, Sixers Hawks. You know what I've decided? I'm making a statement. I'm making my statement. I am only going to be talking positive about my Sixers from here on out. I have this thing. I'm a bad fan. I've always been a bad fan. I love my city. I'll rep my city. I'll fight for my city. But when my city has weaknesses, I've never been able to just sugarcoat it and be like, it's okay. But I'm going to try. So Philly all the way. Let's go Sixers. Crush Trey and the Hawks. What do you think is going to happen in the series? They're tied up 1-1.
Look, I said that the Hawks would win the championship, or not win the championship. They're not winning the championship. But I did say that they would beat the 76ers in the series. And I'm not going to go back on my word. I'm not going to. I think that they still could. And I'll stick by that take, right, for now, until I see fit otherwise, right? However, one thing that I did mention when I said that was they got the pieces, like Clint Capella, potentially John Collins, Okongwu off the bench, to make Embiid struggle, to make the game harder for him. Then he drops 40 in a game 2 and proves me wrong. He's a physical force in the paint. He's very hard to stop, and when he's clicking, right? It's going to be very difficult for this team to stop him. And they do have the defensive pieces to make a game harder for Trae Young, Bogdanovich, or whoever their primary ball handler is at the moment. Matisse Thybulle, Danny Green, Ben Simmons, maybe Tobias Harris. They're all, switching on whoever the primary ball handler is for the Atlanta Hawks. But I will admit the supporting cast for the Hawks in Game 2 did struggle a bit. John Collins was not on his game. Gallinari was not on his game. Bogdanovich was kind of 50-50. So I still think that the Hawks – I think that here's honestly what I would say. I think that the 76ers are consistently a better team, but the ceiling on the Atlanta Hawks when they are clicking on all cylinders is much better. Not much better, but is better than the 76ers ceiling when they are clicking on all cylinders. And if the Hawks can hit their ceiling or get closer to it, then they most certainly can win the series. And I because I think that will happen. I will stick by the original take that they're going to beat Philadelphia.
I think the big difference is on the perimeter. You're not going to stop Embiid, but I think the Hawks perimeter players, top to bottom, are just way more dynamic offensively than the Philly players. Danny Green, I don't know how he still has a roster spot in the NBA. I don't know what he brings to the table. Seth Curry is like according to Conrad, Steph 2.0, but that's not how the 2.0 works. He's like a Steph 0.01. He's 10% of Steph. You got Thybulle. You got think about last game. The only reason the Sixers won was they put in Shake Milton, and he went 5 from 6 for 3-point range.
Yeah.
Well, that game was tied up. That was basically a tie game and you're going to rely on a guy who is struggling to come off the bench and get you the win. Okay. Philly struggles on the perimeter, and I think that's going to be the differentiator in this series, but I'm excited for it. I think this is going 7 games.
I do agree. I think it's not, when I say that the Hawks will win, I don't think it's going to be, I guess I wouldn't necessarily say that it's going to be like they win in 5. But I think that when they win, it's going to be by relatively large margin, and when they lose, it won't be by a very large margin. I guess that's what I will say. Because I like what you said. I agree. 2 points is worth more than 3. And the Hawks have a lot more guys that can get you those 3 points than the 76ers do. So that could definitely be the quote-unquote X factor in this series. And it's going to be exciting. I wouldn't necessarily say it's personally my favorite. I do love this Clippers Jazz series. I think it's going to be pretty good if things can get figured out, which I'm expecting it to get figured out. And it was also really fun watching Donovan Mitchell dominate the first 2 games.
Right?
Yeah, that series is definitely the second most exciting for me. It's going to be fun to watch. But I think that's all we have left for you guys today. Maybe. I don't know if
this was one of my favorites. I like when you are in the main part of your house. I don't like when you're in the dungeon doing these episodes. I like when your Wi-Fi works better up here. Is the power back on?
It doesn't. No, it's not actually. It's not.
All right,
let me double check. No, it's not on. So, not at all. But I guess we'll make it work. But maybe I come up here for some more Scouts episodes. I guess is that what the plan is going forward?
I think that's what the community is going to demand after the quality of this episode.
All right. Well, you know what? Scouts is officially getting taken to the next level, literally and figuratively. I'm going upstairs now, going up 1 floor higher. So here we go.
Guys, send Conrad some love. This guy is a workaholic at 16 years old. He's a star. Send him some love. Send him some comments. He's making this work for us. Thank you, guys. Thank you for another episode of Scouts.